Well, as you can clearly see on screen, I've decided to hold on, decorate the room a little bit. I decided to get some posters for the background because I thought my fucking wall just was not cutting it. So, Makachev, Taporia, O'Malley, Aspinall, and Pereira looks a lot better. Looks just a little bit more, and it even feels like way cooler doing videos with this shit in the background. It just feels fucking sweet, you know. But Matchmaker Monday is back. Now tomorrow I'm going to be making a video on the Paramount deal because I'm super fucking stoked to talk about that. And I think the Paramount deal is absolutely lit, and that's going to be tomorrow's video. Super fucking charged to make a video on that. But you know, first matchup we'll talk about. Anthony, I kind of talked about it yesterday. Anthony Hernandez versus Paulo Costa. Now, I originally did Paulo Costa versus Brendan Allen when they both fought on the same card. But I feel like this makes a little bit more sense, okay? Now, you could mix and match it a few different ways, okay? Brendan Allen beat Marvin Vettori, so I feel like he deserves to fight up as well. I feel like Jared Cannonier versus Michael Venom Page winner is going to have a bit of an impact, but I feel like Costa versus Hernandez is kind of a good matchup to make now for fans. I feel like this is going to generate a lot of fan interest. I feel like this will generate a lot of hype because it's actually a pretty decent matchup. And I like seeing Pablo Costa fight as well, bro. I don't know. I talked about this on the channel like a little bit, but do you remember that fucking ESPN interview? Brett Okamoto was going to get fucking vaulted. Um, he was saying like, also talking to your coach, then Costa just started crying, and ever since that moment, I've kind of liked Pablo Costa because I was like, damn, that guy's actually a G. But yeah, I like this stylistic matchup. It's a good stylistic stand-up fight. I probably pick Anthony Hernandez to win. When I first kind of thought of it, I was like, oh, Costa might be able to edge that, but I just think Costa's a little bit inconsistent. You know, he beat Roman Kroylov. He beat Kroylov in his last fight. I'm not really backing too much into that. You know, Rome Delizzi's a better win than Kroylov, in my opinion, at this stage of their careers and stuff like that. And I feel like Anthony Hernandez is on very good form. And Paulo Costa is so inconsistent. He's so unreliable. You cannot rely on that guy to fight anybody. A lot of people said that he would have beaten Hamza. I don't really see it personally. I don't see that at all, actually. I don't think Paulo Costa would have beaten Hamza in any fucking world, if I'm being real with you. But I feel like Costa's definitely looked a lot better in his last fight. He looked very, very sharp. He looked very, very good. He looked on form. He looked like old Paulo Costa again, okay? Now, Costa never really had any massive wins. Like, Romero was his best win at the time. Romero probably is still his best win, if we're being completely honest with you here. He had, like, an insane first round against Whitaker, but then lost the last two rounds. So I'm not backing that too much. You know what I mean? It's a bit like Darren Till. You look good, but you lost. And Whitaker's losing to, like, Derrida and stuff like that, so I can't really put too much into that. And I feel like Pablo Costa at this stage of his career, I don't know. It's. I really like Costa. I really like Costa. Like I remember the Vittori build up just brought me so much joy. Just brought me so much joy in just knowing that he was fat and overweight, and then God, what am I on about? And then Vittori was just like, well, Costa was saying like, oh well, it's your fault. I'm fat, and Vittori's like, what the fuck you on about? But I like Pablo Costa. I think stylistically this will be a good stand up fight. I feel like Costa would be able to pick his moments. I feel like Anthony Hernandez would be able to get better opportunities on the feet. I feel like his stand up just kind of counters Costa in ways. I feel like Costa would come in there with a leg heavy approach. Hernandez would kind of utilize grappling in the moments, but I feel like he's a better boxer than Pablo Costa, and I feel like that would be a good stylistic fight to watch. I feel like Anthony Hernandez's boxing would be too much for Costa. I feel like he'd be able to find his shots using his boxing, getting into range, keeping away from Paulo Costa at times, and then kind of being in the pocket when he needs to be in the pocket. I just feel like Costa would be a very heavy, a very leg kick heavy approach fighting Hernandez. And I don't know. I kind of feel like if you're going to fight Hernandez, I feel like you need to be in his face forward, pressuring, just like that. Oh, just like that man there. My fucking thing. Sean Strickland. Paulo Costa's actually there as well, which is kind of funny. I didn't realize that, but I feel like a Strickland. I feel like a Drickus. I feel like a DeRitter. Maybe even sorry, not Wicker. Michael Venom Page in moments. We'll see how MVP does against Jared Cannonier. I'll be breaking down the full card as well, probably Wednesday. I kind of want to talk about the Paramount deal first because it's kind of hot news. Um, I feel like a Michael Venom Page would probably be Anthony Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez, simply because I just feel like MVP striking's on a whole different level. Now, if Hernandez got him down, he would have his way with him. I feel like we can agree on that. We'll see what Jared Cannonier is able to coke up against MVP. I don't know why that fight's even. I don't know what the fuck they're even doing making that fight, but I'm so happy. I'm so happy they're fighting. It's a good stylistic fight, okay? Um, like I said, forward pressure, getting in Anthony Hernandez's face is the way to go. I don't see it. Don't see you beating him any other way. I don't think there's a better solution, and I feel like absolutely that is the best option. Get in his face, forward pressure, throw jabs, throw T kicks like Strickland does, blitz forward like Drickus does, move forward like the Ritter does. I just think getting in his face is the answer to this guy. I really do. And will Paulo Costa do that? Probably not, but we can always hope. We can always hope, but. Matchup number one. Matchup number two. Steve Usyk picked up a win last night, and I think him versus Manuel Cape is a great fight to make, okay? Flyweights in kind of a weird situation at the moment, okay? Because it's obvious Alexandre Pantoja is clearly better than the rest. He's clearly number one. He's breezing them all. He just finished Kai France, even though Kai France didn't deserve absolutely fucking anything in that fight. Like, as regards, he did not deserve to be in a title fight, okay? So Manuel Cape is number 7, and Steve Usyk is number 10. The Kai France fight is always there, but Cape is coming off 2 wins. He lost to Muhammad Mokaev a year ago. I think the Steve Usyk fight would be a fun fight. Steve Usyk got really hyped up from losing to Pantoja, and I always think if you get hyped up from losing, that's never a good sign, like at all. I never think that's a good sign. Like if you get hyped up from losing, that's a terrible fucking sign. As much as he did look good against Pantoja, like he went to a decision with Moreno, he got chinned by Kai France, which I thought he should have beat Kai France, but maybe he would now. Royval fight would be kind of interesting. I think Royval will kind of just move forward a bit too much. Joshua Van is who doesn't love Joshua Van now? Joshua Van is an absolute fucking stud, and I love that guy so much. But as regards Usyk versus Cape, I'd probably be leaning towards Manuel Cape in that fight. I feel like he'd probably be a bit too quick. He'd probably, get in and out of range very well. He'd implement the grappling well as well. Although Usyk does have extremely good ability to get back to his feet. He showed that against Pantoja. He's shown that kind of throughout his career. Eddie Osborne, Usyk got him down in the third. After he got knocked down the first, he got Odie Osborne's back, so he is quite a good grappler. I think Cape would probably be able to. Cape's too quick moving in. I think Cape is way too quick moving in with his shots. He's got very good leg kicks. I have a hard time forgiving Cape losing Muhammad Mokaev because I just remember how fucking hyped I was for that. Those boys hated each other. And they were chatting all this shit. It was bad blood. They were saying all this fucking shit. And then all of a sudden, it's just like one of the worst fights ever. So I do have like a little bit of beef towards Manuel Cape where I'm like, you know what, mate? Fuck you. That is an absolute disgrace. But apart from that, Manuel Cape's on good form. He didn't beat anyone necessarily great in his last 2 fights. It's kind of like, obviously the Kai France fight was the fight we all kind of wanted to see, but UFC just never really went down that route again. And the beef was there. The storyline was there, He went at Izzy at the press conference and just I don't know. I don't know why they never really booked that again. I don't know why they never rebooked that, if I'm being honest with you. It doesn't really make any sense to me. But like I said, Cape's kind of on the up now. Cape's on the up now. Steve Usyk is kind of like caught in no man's land, I feel, at the moment, because we don't really know how good he is, because he seems to be losing to the top echelon to division. And let's not forget, Odie Osborne, that was a very close fight there, 2 days ago. Very close fight. On a different day, Odie Osborne could have won that fight. And I'm pretty sure that was short notice as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel like Usyk just maybe obviously he got rushed to Pantoja, like that's no secret. But they're kind of progressively bringing him down the rankings. They started with Pantoja, then Kai France. I thought they would have done Moreno, then Kai France, because Moreno is better than Kai France, but they kind of went to the Kai France Moreno route. Now I feel like Cape's the next step down. Now, if he puts on a clinic against Cape, then we can kind of sit here and say, okay, Odie Osborne's quite a tricky opponent. He's very quick. Usyk's very heavy-handed, so he kind of relies on his hands a lot. Styles make fights. Kai France, I thought that was a good stylistic fight for Usyk to win. I cannot lie, and he just didn't. Like he just didn't. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Pantoja, like that is what it is. You had the best performance against Pantoja out of anybody in the division that's fought him with that belt. I know him and Moreno went life and death 2 years ago, so you can't argue that. But I feel like, Usyk really showed he was very good in that fight. Now, it is a good stylistic fight because Pantoja's not very good with his hands, very good with the grappling. He has really kind of shit striking with he's really shit boxing, I think. Like, he kind of just Sometimes he like throws like that and leaves his chin up in the air, and that's where I kind of thought Kai Kara France might be able to land like a massive overhand, but no. Kaya Sakura felt the same. I felt like he could land like a knee, but then again, I was like, I never really bet on people that could land. I bet on people that will land. And Pantoja was always that guy to land a takedown, land submission, just land someone in a bad spot where I'm like, okay, yeah, it's over now. But yeah, third fight. So if you know this series, I do two fights on the pay per view that just happened, or fight night, whatever it is, and then the third fight's kind of a bogey one. Dan Hooker versus Benil Dariush. Now, it's kind of like weird to say, okay? Because sometimes I have Dan Hooker against Arman Tsarukyan, sometimes I have Dan Hooker against Justin Gaethje, sometimes I have Dan Hooker against fucking Paddy Pimblett. But we're seeing the way the division, the kind of landscape of the division is going. Charles Oliveira just got booked with Rafael Fiziev. Okay, I thought they were going to do Paddy Pimblett versus Charles Oliveira. I thought that was a lock. I even fucking said you could do Dan Hooker versus Rafael Fiziev. The UFC clearly didn't hear me. They clearly don't watch my YouTube videos. How? I don't know, but they went a different path. They went a different path. So that makes me feel like Beneil Dariush versus Dan Hooker is kind of like going to be one of those fights to keep these two busy while the top of the division scrap it out. Arman, Pimblett, Charles, Taporia, Gaethje, when they're all mixed and matched, then you'll have like a Dan Hooker or Beneil Dariush ready to take on the kind of loser or the winner in a number one contender fight. So that's where I'm kind of thinking the Dan Hooker versus Beneil Dariush matchup comes in clutch for the UFC. If Arman, okay, so bro, honestly, the whole thing changes week by week. 1 minute I think Arman Tsarukyan's getting a shot. 1 minute I think it's Paddy Pimblett versus Arman Tsarukyan. Paddy versus Arman in Abu Dhabi, I would love it, but that would just mean that Justin Gaethje's getting a title shot, and I have a serious issue with Justin Gaethje getting a title shot. If I'm being completely honest with you, I don't think that's a good idea. Literally in the fucking slightest. Okay, in the fucking slightest. But Beneil Dariush versus Dan Hooker, I'd be picking Dan Hooker to win. I feel like Dan Hooker's got good takedown defense. He can get taken down. Mateus Gamrot shown that. Like he's been prone to takedowns in his career. Yeah, Poirier showed that. Makachev showed that. Gamrot showed that. Pradio Coelhas. Remember the guy with the fucking heel hooks? Um, Pradio, Pradio Coelhas, something along those lines. Fucking was spamming Umanari rolls on Dan Hooker and MSG on the Izzy versus Pereira card, and just was able to get him down in moments. So let's not forget that. Let's not forget that. Okay, Beneil Dariush could have success with grappling here. I feel like Dan Hooker's so rangy. You know, Moicano dropped Dariush in the first round, I'm pretty sure. Fuck me, Moicano. It just hurts to see you lose, bro. I don't want to see you lose at all. I don't want to see you lose at all, bro. But you gotta fucking beat people like Beneil Dariush if you're gonna beat Arman Tsarukyan or Pimblett or Charles or anybody at the top of that division. But you just didn't. You just didn't win. You just didn't fucking win, and it just hurts, bro. It fucking hurts, bro. Um, I don't know. It's an interesting stylistic matchup. I feel like Beneil Dariush is kind of one loss away from retiring, so he's kind of got that like I don't have anything to lose attitude. Where Dan Hooker's right there. Let's not forget Dan Hooker in this conversation. Like he's probably in a better position than Justin Gaethje, in my opinion. He beat Mateus Gamrot, who's in a better position than Fiziev, but no one wants to hear that. I know Dan Hooker pulled out. I'm not denying that, but if we're basing off their last performances, who do you think? I know that a lot of people don't think Dan Hooker won, but do you really want to give Justin Gaethje a title shot of a 1 week's notice Rafael Fiziev and getting slept by Max Holloway? That's all I'm saying, okay? I'm not saying Dan Hooker deserves a title shot. Please don't get that wrong, but I feel like Dan Hooker is right there. Like he's 1 win away from a Charles Oliveira or a Paddy Pimblett or someone like that. Like he's 1 win away from a number one contenders fight. Okay? And I feel like Dariush, this is a good way to get Dariush out of the division and also a good way to bring Dan Hooker up the division. Okay? I feel like this is a proper, Dan Hooker's Dan Hooker is the biggest fucking stud ever, man. Honestly, I fucking love Dan Hooker. Okay? It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you are in the rankings. He will fight you. Okay? Gaethje needs to take a page out of that fucking book. Okay? Fucking bullshit, man. Dan Hooker's an absolute G of the game. He will literally fight anybody. Okay? Doesn't matter. As soon as he was, healed up from injury. He just was fucking tweeting, being like, "Yeah, give me someone, fucking anyone can get it." Okay, Arman. Now there is that whole. I genuinely thought for a while there they were going to do Arman Strickland versus Dan Hooker. I really did, bro. I really thought that was going to be the fight. There was beef, there was bad blood, there was fucking saying all this shit, and then you know, Arman's kind of saying I wanted my title shot and stuff like that. I'm really sick of talking about the lightweight division, the whole triangle of Paddy, Gaethje, Arman. If someone says no, you cut them from the sport. That's my honest opinion. I have no time for people turning that fight. If you offer all of them, let's say you ring Arman Sarukian, you versus Pimlet, October, Abu Dhabi, Jones versus Jones, definitely not Jones. Tom versus Gan, co-main event, Pimlet, you win. He says yes. Paddy says yes. But then if you ring Justin Gaethje, Arman Sarukian, co-main event, Tom versus Gan, and he says no, cut him. Cut him from the sport. You let Arman versus Pimlet fight. And the way Justin Gaethje's been talking, he's gonna say no. That's why I said him. I feel like if Arman Sarukian had a contract for Paddy Pimlet versus fucking if he had a contract with Paddy Pimlet, he would sign it. That's what I think. But we'll go back to give an official prediction for Dariush versus Hooker. I feel like Hooker would use his range well. I feel like he'd be able to find moments in the pocket. Dariush is dangerous. Dariush can definitely land on the feet as well. Dariush can use the grappling to get him down. But I feel like Hooker would probably be just a little bit too rangy with the kicks. He'd use his jab to get in there. He's very good teep kicks. I like Dan Hooker in that fight. Paramount video coming out tomorrow. I'm fucking stoked to make that fucking video. Drop a like, subscribe. I never asked to fucking, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. That's my goal here. So help a brother out, man. Help a brother out. Like, subscribe, all that good shit. And thanks for watching.